The MLB trade deadline has officially passed, and it was a wild day in the MLB world. And I'm going to be grading every team's trade deadline based on the moves they made and maybe the moves they didn't make to help them for the rest of the 2026 season and beyond. Let's get right into it. What a trade deadline it was. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as I'm bringing baseball content every single day. First off, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Their one trade they made was bringing in Lars Nootbaar from the Cardinals, and I thought they could have maybe gone for bigger fishes, done a little something crazy, but overall, I'm giving them a C. Average deadline, didn't really make any major moves, but they made a couple moves. Or one move, I guess, for Lars Nootbaar, who will help them. He's not a nothing burger. Next, for the Braves, I did not like their deadline at all. I'm giving them a D. They made a couple on the margin trades. They brought in Lane Thomas, Bailey Falter from the Royals, and Tyler Mahle from the Giants. Overall, I think they could have went for a bigger fish, maybe like a Casey Mize type. They just needed more starting pitching and better starting pitching, and they did not get that. I don't believe in this team to win the World Series like I might have if they made big moves, but they didn't. And I'm overall giving the Braves a D. They should have done a lot. Next up, it's going to be the Baltimore Orioles, and what a deadline they had, folks. They traded their franchise cornerstone, Adley Rutschman, to the Boston Red Sox, and they got an absolute haul. I'm giving them an A this deadline. I am a Red Sox fan, and I thought we gave up a lot. Adley Rutschman's a good player, and the Baltimore Orioles capitalized on that. Anthony Ianson is one of the best pitching prospects in the whole game. Harold Rivas and Andy Azokar are also great in the Red Sox system. The Orioles really hit a home run with this trade. I'm giving them an A just for that trade alone. They also traded Taylor Ward to the Mariners. It's good to get something for someone who is expiring deal. So I'm giving the Orioles an A for this deadline. They made a big move, and they were the winners in that trade, in my opinion. Next, their trade partners for that trade, the Boston Red Sox. Boston Red Sox also made a couple other trades. They traded former top prospect Marcelo Meyer to the Giants for Eric Miller, who is a great left-handed reliever, something they needed. But trading Marcelo Meyer, who was just a top 10 prospect last year, for a lefty reliever, might not sit well. They didn't believe in him at all, and I don't blame him. He wasn't great. He had some off-the-field issues. They also made a small trade bringing in Eli White, speedster, might help them in the playoffs, and they also brought in Curtis Mead, which was a little before the deadline, but I'm counting that for the deadline trades. He's injured right now, but I thought that was a win-win deal for both teams, them and the Nats. I'm giving the Red Sox a B this deadline. I thought they maybe should have focused on shortstop instead of catcher, because getting offense from the catching position is a little inconsistent, and their shortstop is a big problem right now. They do have Franklin Arias. If he continues to mash in AAA and they bring him up and he produces well, that's could change the whole story about this deadline and their shortstop needs. He could be that shortstop for the future. But overall, getting Adley Rutschman was their big fish, and they needed it badly. They overpaid for it, maybe, but that's what you got to do at these deadlines to get the deal across, and Craig Breslow has learned from his mistakes. Next, we got the Cubs. The Cubs had a great deadline, in my opinion. They got Kevin Gausman, they got Ryan Zephyrin, they got Braxton Garrett, and they got Clay Holmes as well. I'm giving the Cubs an A. Clay Holmes is going to help them tremendously. So is Kevin Gausman. They needed starting pitching badly, and they got two of the best on the market. For rentals, I think they're a World Series contender now with these two additions, and they did a lot more than their division rivals, the Brewers, which we'll get to soon. But getting Gausman and Clay Holmes is a significant upgrade for this pitching staff, and both those guys might be starting playoff games for them. Next, we got the White Sox, who are also very busy at this deadline. They got Joey Bart, Brendan Doyle, Huascar Brasban to help out that bullpen, and Luis Castillo. I think I'm giving them a B as well. They didn't get a big fish, but they upgrade at the margins. Huascar Brasban is going to be probably their second best reliever behind Grant Taylor. That's a good trade for them. Luis Castillo is going to be that third starter that they needed, even though he's not that great this year. We'll see if he bounces back in Chicago. But overall, they didn't really make the wow me move that many thought they could have. But what am I going to say? They made a couple deals. They improved their team. That's all you want to do at the deadline. And they're looking to go on a playoff run. Next, the Reds, they really didn't do much. I'm giving a D. They kind of didn't sell J.J. Bleday or Spencer Steer. They sold Nathaniel Lowe and Ferguson. I mean, not really much there to talk about. So moving on to the Guardians. The Guardians, man. I really like their deadline. Bringing in Nathaniel Lowe, Joe Adell, and Foster Griffin. That Foster Griffin trade, I love it. I'm giving them an A. They got one of the best rental starters on the market for not much. And bringing in Joe Adell is a high-ceiling play for that lineup that desperately needs more pop because that lineup is significantly lacking home run power and consistency. Bringing in Joe Adell, he brings that ceiling. Maybe they can tap into something that he got last year. He had 30 home runs last year. He hasn't been hitting as great this year, but he's a guy who could change a playoff series, has 2 big swings in one series. That's something you need. Nathaniel Lowe has also been great this year for the Reds, and they brought him in, filling at first base. I think the Guardians are making a good push. I think they could win the AL Central, at least definitely get that third wild card spot, and be scary in the playoffs with Gavin Williams, Foster Griffin, and that pitching staff. That bullpen, they could be a scary out in the playoffs. I'm giving them an A. I really like that deadline. Didn't really have to spend too much either. They got a couple guys that'll help them right away, and that's all you want to do at the deadline. Next, the Rockies. They were also kind of quiet. Oh, I didn't even realize they sold Senzatella to the Brewers. I like that. But Brendan Doyle and Senzatella out the door. I thought they should have traded Mickey Moniak, probably even Hunter Goodman, but the asking price was probably too high for Hunter Goodman, even Jake McCarthy. I think they really sold on the margins, and they should have sold harder. I'm giving them a D. Unfortunately, the Rockies haven't been able to do anything well so far, really, in the past 5 years, but they sold off a couple pieces who they needed to sell off, but not the big guys in Hunter Goodman and Mickey Moniak, so I'm giving them a D. Next, it's going to be the Tigers. Man, they made 2 huge moves, and those were the 2 only moves they made. And wow. Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal out the door, 2 backbones of this rotation for the past couple years. And I really like it for them. I really do. But it's not the best of the best. They could have got more for Skubal, I believe. So I'm giving them a B. They got 2 top 100 prospects. It's all you kind of want for a guy, but they could have got better prospects. And then you trade Casey Mize, he's a good player, to the Padres for Cash Mayfield and Jackson Wolf. Cash Mayfield's a good prospect. I think that's a great return for a rental starter. Getting that high-end prospect from the Padres in Cash Mayfield is going to help them out. And they clearly are selling now. They don't believe they can make a run this year, which I feel like if they kept Casey Mize, they would have tried to sell to the fans that, yeah, we're still going for it. But they're not, and it's a good sign for the American League. I don't want to really see the Tigers. They have a scary lineup, scary pitching staff, and they got their 2 best pitchers out of there, but they got good returns for them. I'm giving them a B. Next, we have the Houston Astros, and they only made 1 trade, but it was a trade I really like for them. Getting Dalton Varsho in there. They needed an outfielder, giving up Spencer Arrighetti. He was a good, solid pitcher for them, but Dalton Varsho is someone they really need to patrol that outfield and give them some potential. He had a great year last year, kind of slowed down this year like the rest of the Blue Jays, but if he can find his stroke again like he did last year, it's going to be good for the Astros. I really like that deal for them. It's better than someone they could have maybe looked at in like a Mickey Moniak. I would 10 times out of 10 rather Dalton Varsho for them. Next, the Royals. I don't like this deadline at all for them. They're so out of it. And they didn't really sell hard. They sold Bubic to the Dodgers and Lane Thomas to the Braves. I'm giving them an F. You had to have traded Michael Wacha. You should have traded Seth Lugo and gotten good returns for them, and they didn't. They held on to Michael Wacha, which is really interesting to me because he is a expiring deal this year, and he's not going to help you win, or he is going to help you win this year, but you're way out of it. You should have just traded him to a contender for a couple of good prospects that you might have been able to get. And Seth Lugo, I guess no one's paying that contract, but you could have found a way to trade him. I did not like this deadline for the Royals at all, even though I liked their deadline last year a lot. But this year was not great. Next, the Angels. The Angels were busy, man. They were busy. Traded Zephyr Hahn to the Cubs, Kirby Yates to the Pirates, Joe Adell to the Guardians, Jose Siriano to the Blue Jays. I'm giving them a B. They finally actually sold their pieces off. Not everyone. They could have traded Zach Neto, but they were asking a lot. They were asking for freaking Arias for him. But the Angels actually traded their guys, something they haven't done in a while. And I'm giving them their props. They got some guys in return. Arjun Nimala from the Blue Jays is going to be probably the best prospect they got. And I'm proud of them. They did it. So I'm giving them a B. Yeah, the Dodgers, A. Not even a surprise. Not even a surprise for the Dodgers getting an A. They got the best pitcher in baseball. They got Tarek Skubal. They also made a trade for Chris Bubich, and those were kind of the two big trades they got. But just alone, that trade for Skubal is giving them an A, and you all know why. Because he's the best pitcher in baseball, and he's going to help them win a lot of games and win the World Series most likely. Moving on to the Marlins. They traded Liam Hicks. That was kind of their only big move. They didn't buy anyone. I'm kind of just going to give them a C. They were kind of quiet. They didn't really need Liam Hicks anymore because they have Joe Mack at the catcher position. And just kind of staying put, not buying, not really selling. Actually, I'm going to move them down to a D. Because I feel like if they bought, they could have been a sneaky team to sneak into the playoffs and surprise some guys. They have the pitching, and if they kind of have the offense. If they added a couple pieces of upgrades here and there, I thought it would have been great for them. But I'm putting them in the D tier. Next, the Milwaukee Brewers. Oh my god, I did not like this deadline at all for them. I'm giving them an F. You see what the Dodgers did. That is your biggest competition in the NL right now. They got Skubal, and you go out and get Dustin May and Antonio Senzatella, really. You couldn't have at least gotten maybe a Freddie, maybe a Clay Holmes, maybe a Casey Mize, something like that to help your rotation behind Miz. I did not like what they did at all. They did a classic Brewers move, stay put at the deadline like they always do, not go after any big fishes. They're not going to make it out of the NL at this rate ever if they continue to operate at the deadline like this, because the Dodgers go for it. A lot of other teams in the NL went for like the Cubs, and other teams we'll get to later. But the Brewers, I'm giving you an F. Right now you're the best team in the NL, and you didn't buy at all. You didn't buy hard at all. Dustin May, no one is scared of him. You had to go for it. This was the year to go for it, and you didn't. You're letting your fans down. You're letting everyone down. The Brewers, I'm not really surprised, but I'm giving them an F. I hated this. I hated it. Next, the Twins. Who saw this coming from the Twins? Absolute buy fest for them. They got Jeff Hoffman to bolster that bullpen, AJ Minter to bolster that bullpen, and Dean Kramer. Dean Kramer, who cares? But AJ Minter and Jeff Hoffman are real additions to that bullpen and something they really needed at a high level badly. So I'm giving them an A because they just filled their needs. Didn't make a big move. They didn't sell anyone. They're going for it, and I respect it. You have to respect the teams that go for it, man. Prospects are only prospects. You can only hoard them for so long. I'm giving them an A. You got to respect it. They're barely there. I think they're tied for the third wild card spot, and they said, fuck it. We're gonna do it. I like it. Next, the Mets. Probably the biggest sellers of the deadline. Sold Clay Holmes. Sold Luke Weaver. Sold Brooks Raley, sold Brazaban, and sold Freddie P. I'm giving them a B because they did what they needed to do. They got some returns back for those guys. And ultimately, I respect it. You sell these rentals. You sell the guys who aren't going to be here next year. Sell the guys who aren't going to help you out in the future. That's all you have to do at the deadline when you're out of it. But I'm going to kind of give them a C, actually. They just did what they needed to do. They didn't do anything crazy. Didn't get any crazy returns. They were asking for a top 100 prospect back for Freddie, and they didn't really get close to that. So I'm giving them a C. Next, the New York Yankees. They got Luis Garcia, who actually had a home run today, and Heliot Ramos, and they also sold Camilo Doval. I'm giving them a C. Luis Garcia it's not a positional need. They have Ben Rice at first base. He's gonna, I guess, platoon with Goldschmidt, Ben Rice. Like, they're gonna have two of those guys in the lineup every single day. And they got Heliot Ramos, which I actually like. But Austin Wells is still their catcher. They didn't get a catcher. They couldn't go for Tyler Stevenson, Ryan Jeffers, Liam Hicks. I feel like they could have been a great Liam Hicks team. But at the end of the day, they didn't get a catcher. That was their biggest need. They didn't help the bullpen out. They only made it worse by trading Camilo Doval. I'm not really sure what the plan was. I mean, Luis Garcia is great. Heliot Ramos is great. But they didn't fill the positions of need, which is something you have to do at the deadline. The A's, they didn't make a single trade. I'll put them in the D tier. The Phillies, I loved the Phillies deadline. Oh, my God. I'm giving them an A. They got it done early too. They didn't give their fans anything to worry about. They got Brooks Raley and Luis Ariz during the morning. Those are two guys who I really like this deadline. Luis Ariz should fit well into that lineup, and Brooks Raley is a reliever they really needed. Moving on to the Pirates. I like their deadline too. They got a couple great relievers that they really needed. Luke Weaver, I predicted that in my last video, and Kirby Yates, and Camilo Doval. Like, they really just revamped this bullpen. I'm giving them B. They needed bullpen help. That was really the only thing they needed, and they addressed it in a big way. Luke Weaver will be that closer. Camilo Doval and Kirby Yates will be those setup guys that they really needed to help them go on a playoff push, get that their wild card spot in the NL. Next, we got the Padres. Oh, another good deadline. I mean, I'm giving them an A, too. Casey Mize at the absolute buzzer. I love that. And Robbie Ray, I also love that. They needed starting pitching. And those are two guys who you trust in a playoff game. And it's not really a question about it. And if they can make the playoffs, watch out. A 1, 2, 3, 4 of Pivetta, King, Robbie Ray, and Casey Mize is really just a million times better what they had. They had Walker Buehler, J.P. Sears, and Herman Marquez starting games on the regular. It's not a recipe for success. And they really revamped that starting rotation, and I really like that for them. And the Casey Mize at the buzzer, like, that was kind of crazy. All right, next we got the Giants. The Giants, they didn't really make any big moves. Like, they didn't sell any of their big contracts. They did get Marcelo Meyer for Eric Miller, right? And I think that was pretty good for them. Kind of just selling a lefty reliever, get a guy with a high ceiling who has prospect pedigree. I'm just gave them a C. They didn't really do anything crazy. They didn't sell a Chapman, Adames, or a Devers like many thought they would. At least they got something for Arias, who wasn't coming back last year, and something for Robbie Ray. So they sold off enough pieces. The Mariners, they did get Taylor Ward, but also trade Luis Castillo. I'm also giving them a C. Shouldn't be buying in their position right now, and you really shouldn't be selling. So I guess they get a C. They didn't really do much because they're not in it, and they're not out of it. So they kind of just stayed packed, trust the guys they have who brought them to the ALCS Game 7 last year. So giving them a C overall. Next, the Cardinals. They traded Lars Nootbaar and Dustin May. They didn't sell hard. They didn't buy either. I'm probably giving them a D for standing pat when they're already out of it and definitely not getting back into it. Maybe sell a couple more guys here or there, or just go for it. Yeah, I didn't really like that out of them. But at least they traded a guy in Dustin May who maybe you signed in the offseason, didn't think you'd get anything for him, and you got a couple things back for him. The Rays, they got Freddie Peralta. They also got Liam Hicks at that catcher position. Did they get anybody else? No. I'm giving them a B. They needed a catcher, and they needed starting pitching, and they addressed that. Freddie Peralta, I bet he'll be amazing with the Rays. The Rays are going to fix him. It's pretty obvious. And I'm giving them a B. They're still the favorite in the AL, in my opinion. With them and the Red Sox, I would think the Yankees being third. And it's going to be a great race to finish this year and go into the playoffs with 3 AL East teams looking to win that AL pennant. Next, the Rangers. They kind of sold. Actually, they didn't really do anything. They traded Josh Smith, and that's it. I'm giving them an F. They didn't buy. They didn't sell. They stood packed. There was a lot of rumors about like Nathan Eovaldi and everyone else. They said everyone is basically available, and they didn't trade any of those guys. So I'm giving them an F. They didn't get anything in return. They didn't trade anyone good. They didn't get anyone good back. When they're a team that's kind of in the middle of the pack, not really having a position, standing pat is usually not the way you want to go. So I'm giving them an F, to be honest. The Blue Jays kind of surprised me. They did sell. They sold Jeff Hoffman. They sold Varsho. They sold Gosman. But they did bring in Jose Soriano, which is something I really like for them. They traded Gosman, who's an expiring deal, and they bring in Jose Soriano, who's going to help them out next year. And they're looking to contend next year. So I'm giving the Blue Jays a B. They sold off pieces like Varsho and Jeff Hoffman, who really weren't going to really be in their future core, they didn't think. So I'm giving them a B. They brought in Jose Soriano, which I really like because he's going to be helping them out for the future. And finally, the Washington Nationals. They traded Foster Griffin, Luis Garcia, and brought in Connolly early for Curtis Mead. I didn't want them to sell. I wanted the Nationals to go for it, maybe bring in a couple starting pitchers. But they did get a good haul for Luis Garcia, and they got 4 prospects for Foster Griffin, and bringing in Connolly early, who would basically replace Foster Griffin this year if he comes back healthy. I'm going to give them a C. Not really a big fan of it. I wanted them to maybe go for it, not sell Luis Garcia since he has another year control. But I did like the addition of Connolly early. And so thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on X and TikTok here on the screen. And I'm going to be releasing another video tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. So make sure to hit that subscribe button down below.